Breaking news.
Muhammad Ali was born and raised in Louisville, Kentucky on January 17, 1942. His birth name was Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr. He began training as an amateur boxer at age 12, and at 18 he won a gold medal in the light heavyweight division at the 1960 Summer Olympics and turned professional later that year. In his early years as a professional, Clay was more highly regarded for his charm and personality than for his ring skills.
At TVC News, wherever the big news story is happening, we're geared up to break it. TVC News, first with breaking news.
The whole process began with INEC officially declaring the election calendar for the Ondo and Edo election. Political parties took over by announcing how much each aspirant is going to pay for nomination and expression of interest forms. And then we saw the primary election followed by campaigns and more campaigns and all of the intrigues that followed. It's election day. Voting has now officially ended. Sorting and counting, we saw that earlier. The doors of the collation center in Benin City, the Edo State capital, is open. But exactly when collation will begin, I guess we'll have to find out. It's been a mixture of different experiences from all of our correspondents who have been reporting comprehensively across the state what they monitored in this election. There have been instances of vote buying, ballot box snatching in some areas. The police announced that it arrested some suspected political thugs overnight. Quite a number of arrests have also been made. We showed you some area surveillance by the police earlier. They say they're on top of the game. But this is the final laps and perhaps the most important part of it all, where collation have taken place already at the ward level. But we need to see the collation at the state level. And then the final announcement, who is the next governor of Edo State. Libros Oshiomhole is right here with me in the studio. What an amazing experience we've had thus far. They say Edo people have shown so much courage and patience in the face of the rain and the delay they experienced with election materials. But let us look at the politics of things. Some still believe this is Oshiomhole versus Obaseki.
Yes,
and that whoever wins this one is going to make it loud. It's been a fierce battle between both of them. But we've also seen that this election has brought a lot of people together within the APC, and it's now a question of whether they will be able to summon enough numbers to win. Yeah. But what does this mean for governors moving forward, depending on who emerges winner?
It's all about governance, really. It's you can say Obaseki for 8 years didn't, raise the bar of governance above where he met it. But this election is not about governance for the two parties.
Some say that is relative. Obaseki actually built a refinery in Edo State, and no one is talking about that.
No, there was a private refinery, not Obaseki.
Yeah,
Obaseki didn't build a refinery.
When you talk about enabling environment and then the deals
it's like telling me that Buhari or Tinubu built a refinery.
You don't think that this administration is going to, just like what we saw previously with the Dangote refinery? They will
that's what I'm saying. You can't say the federal government. That's why for Dangote it has been about Dangote, Dangote, Dangote. And then people are saying, look, you can't have 4 refineries you abandoned and you want to be a distributor, a private refinery. So taking credit for a modular refinery, a state government taking credit for something that is not yours, for me is not. We shouldn't debase governance to that level, where we, even though we have taken it, to an all-time low, where we celebrate asphalting of roads as dividends of democracy. But that said, you see what is playing out here is the old struggle between old friends in the Obaseki camp, the old PDP, legacy PDP, and then the Oshiomhole factor.
That's right.
You saw the way the primaries went for the APC. the struggle between the erstwhile Oshiomole's men, including Jareti Tenebe, the APC party chairman, who in the first primaries, openly disagreed with Oshiomhole, who, we all know these are people who would die before now for Oshiomhole and the rest. And, there were a lot of allegations that you could see the hand of Abuja in the emergence of the Okpewolo guy. And then Dennis, who Oshiomhole, campaigned for and supported, even though some people felt, no, look, it was the turn of those from the central, and that he foisted Obaseki on the party before then, and he shouldn't, also truncate that gentleman or written agreement that they have. But with the settlement that emerged between, the warring parties, also the president telling them, look, take a cue from Ganduje and Kwankwaso, they once, were contested primaries together. Eventually, they worked together. But eventually, two of them served out their term as governors in Kano State. So, and that, brought all of them together. And you saw them, including Belebe Izeyamu, the former candidate of the APC. So, but the challenge that APC now, the PDP now had, was the fact that the legacy PDP members who, accepted Obaseki and Philip Shaibu, they saw themselves having abandoned after giving Obaseki an umbrella, when they reigned, when they chased him out of the broom home. And they didn't like that. And that's why you see now, even in the election, when you discuss the election, the battleground is in Edo South, where that's where people are actually looking at. Nobody's looking at Edo North, for example. Unlike the 2022 election, where Edo North also was like a battleground, because you have Philip Shaibu, who is from there. You have Danobi, who's also from there. These people were clearly in PDP, and Oshiomhole in APC. But today, you have both Danobi, both Philip Shaibu, both Oshiomhole. Even though Danobi is still in PDP, though suspended, is in court. But
it is complicated now.
It is now like, even though they are in PDP, you know where their mind is.
That's right.
You just have Ole Ogiadume in that Aziz now, and who is also not too, politically, you can't compare him to an Oshiomhole in Edo North. So, and then you have the Minister for what do you call it, Niger Delta, who is also from, Edo North. So that's why when people talk about a vote for APC is like a continuation of Oshiomhole and co., a vote for PDP is a continuation of Obaseki, even though both candidates are from the center.
That's right.
So the both candidates are from the center. So anyhow you want to look at it, it is an ESA agenda. Therefore, Olumide Akpata, a new entrant in the race, and his campaign, just typical of the Labour Party and the obedient movement, his campaign has been unique and different. He's trying to talk about the issues, but there is no way you can also rule out the influence of party membership in Nigerian politics. First and foremost, the opposition to Olumide's emergence was from the Labour Party.
How do you mean?
You remember, before the primaries, you had Maswagbon, the rice man, you had Seju Sogun, and then you have the chairman, the national chairman's factor, Abure, who, though the members of the Labour Party then did not agree, even though there were a lot of allegations of financial proprietary against him, even the secretary, was it the secretary or the treasurer of the party, levied a lot of allegations against Abure. They lived in denial, and until Olumide emerged as the candidate. And now the Labour Party is still in that crisis. Even though you have the Peter Obi factor now trying to come back and, take over maybe the structure, just the way Kenneth Okonkwo accused him of, leaving the party after the election, now trying to come back. You saw him, come to Benin twice or thrice to campaign with Olumide, but it was not enough. Unlike where you have people who had been in PDP, people who had been in APC, who who are looking to draw strength from appointment at the center, who are also looking to draw strength from appointment at the state level. You know, so the governor has something to, negotiate with. The APC also has something to negotiate with. The Labour Party really didn't have that or doesn't have that. So if you look at the three, you would say that if the election had taken place with the general election, Labour would have had, a good show because of the obedient movement, because they actually won the Senate seat in Edo South in the general election. APC had 2 senators and Labour had 1.
But apart from the
PDP didn't even have
internal
any.
struggle of the Labour Party, I was thinking that the Eastern factor also counted for.
Yes. Because people don't really look at when in Nigeria we delude ourselves so much. When it favors us, we look for competence. When it doesn't, we can pander to region, tribe, religion, and whatever. Just look for something that suits your narrative. You say, oh, the ESA agenda. But I will ask you, for example, Aneni he bestrided the political landscape of Nigeria, then there, for a long time. He's an ESA man, what are the legacy in terms of infrastructure that he left in ESA, apart from empowering the people? Obaseki, for example, also, is from Benin. But can the Beninese really say Obaseki's administration was theirs? So, apart from, yes, he's a Benin man, yes, he's the turn of the Beninese, but can you, in all honesty, say this administration, he favored, these people? It's just like saying Obasanjo was president of the country, but there was no road to his village in Ota. Goodluck Jonathan's presidency, apart from, empowering some persons from Niger Delta, he didn't construct the road to Tuoke or the southeast road, the east-west road. So, we always look at this, now is the turn of these people.
That's right.
Why the same people that are saying it's the turn of these persons, we laugh at an Emilokon, who is saying, look, it's my turn. And so it's a turn-by-turn thing. And some people will say, yes, it gives a sense of belonging. And then, after the election, these same people will complain and say, oh, no, we should be talking about development, infrastructure, and the rest.
Right.
We should really choose the one that we want. So, yes, I agree, the Benin factor. No, it's not the turn of a Benin man. A Benin man cannot hand over to another Benin man, which also played against Oshiomhole in 2020. That before now, the Beninese said, look, before now, we're going to Esan to take instruction from Aneni. He became the godfather. Now, you can't be a god. We can't be taking instruction from somebody from Edo North. Right. So we can't have another godfather. But it's the same role that they are all both trying to play now. What they criticize, Oshiomhole criticized Aneni for being a godfather. But he wanted to be a godfather by installing Ezayamo. What do you call it? Obaseki criticized Oshiomhole for being a godfather.
Now he wants
to install as well. And then people will say, no, he's just supporting a good candidate. No. They've been friends for more than 40 years.
Hold that thought for a minute. Let's get back to the field. Sarah Ayeko is standing by at the State Collation Center in Benin City. I'm also joined by Ime Emmanuel, who is Operations Manager, ready to lead Africa. Sarah, must have been a long day for you covering this exercise. What's it like at the Collation Center? Does it look like we're going to start collation anytime soon?
Well, I don't think so, Nifemi. It's been a long day. Of course, from Auchi down to Benin City, and then at the Collation Center, not a lot of things have, not a lot is happening. Just sound check, journalists waiting for any word from INEC officials. Even around the INEC premises, we've not seen any local government come in to attend their results, particularly, considering the delayed election materials at the various polling units across the 18 local governments, logistics issue, the weather, and so all of these factors, playing out. And so, of course, it's expected, and you've heard from a lot of analysts, they've expected that this could cause a delay for the final collation. But we're here at the Collation Center in Benin City just to see if any local government has brought in their results already, because I tell you, the people of Benin, the people of Edo State are itching and waiting for the final results.
On that thought, Sarah, we're going to talk about the polling units you aware that you were earlier today. But let me bring in Ime Emmanuel, Operations Manager, ready to lead Africa, who is also one of the election observers in this exercise. What are the highlights for you today at those polling units you visited? What did you see for yourself?
Okay, thank you for having me again. Election. But I mean, there was a whole lot of teams in the election, right? And of course, we also saw INEC doing what they have to do best. And even though there were quite a number of matches, but I mean, early this morning we had quite a number of elections due to Liverpool. Of course, that tells you how this war in that 1 p.m. which is also playing out in the announcement of the coalition. Of course, and I can tell you that there was quite a number of late pool for the state. So as at 9:30 p.m. every morning, what we have observed in the field was right, and of course there were quite a number of things again, regards to weather, regards to high levels of things and all of that.
Mr. Emmanuel, the visual is fine, but I can hardly hear you from here. Perhaps you should switch your audio connection from Bluetooth so that we can hear you clearer. While you're working at that, let's get back to Sarah, who is at the Collation Center in Benin City. Sarah, you reported that voting did not start until afternoon in some places that you visited. What happened afterwards? Because INEC did say everyone on the queue will vote. At what time did the exercise end in those places?
So Nifemi, today was pretty interesting, right? Before I get to the polling unit where the beavers malfunctioned, let me take you back to Iamo, where we met one of the political weights in this election. He's not a contender, he's not on the ballot, but he's a weight to be reckoned with, just like the guest in the studio had talked about the deciders for this election, which is Oshiomhole, Senator Adams Oshiomhole. His mother had come out to vote. She says that she is the second oldest person in that community, like in that division in Isako West local government. And so for her to come out as early as 9 a.m. to vote spurred the senator to come out. And he said he was embarrassed seeing his mother on live TV voting, and then he was just at home. And so he came out, and it was pretty interesting, beautiful to see and watch how families come out to support one of their own, come out to support a candidate of their choice, come out to support who they feel would lead the state in the next 4 years. And that's what we see. That's what I saw today at that particular polling unit. The second polling unit, which incidentally is the polling unit of the reinstated deputy governor of the state as at now. And that's Mr. Philip Shoaibu. And at that polling unit, they were there from morning and they stayed hours until 12:30 p.m. That was when the beavers started working. Just about 2-3 people had voted before the beavers malfunctioned. And they waited all through that time till 12:30 p.m. for the beavers to come up again. And then it came up. And then it went off again. And so there was just this back and forth. People were really eager to vote, but there was that beavers malfunction. However, we could not wait until the end of the voting session, since we already heard from INEC that they would extend the time, since those who were on the queue before 2:30 will be allowed to vote. So we could not wait till that time because we had to be back at the Collation Center. But trust me, the people stayed there all through, got canopies, and thankfully, while it was raining in some parts of Benin, in Edo State, it didn't rain at all in Isako West. It rained in the morning, but like throughout the day, it was like clear skies, the sun was shining. It was more like the weather forecast didn't predict rain, So it was beautiful just to experience voting in Isako West, as against the previous predictions that Isako West would be a flashpoint for violence, a flashpoint. We heard a lot of analysis about it being a flashpoint. That's out of 8 local governments. Esako West was mentioned to be one of the flashpoints for this election. And it was pretty beautiful to see people come out to vote for a candidate of their choice.
Awesome. I'm wondering if your concerns about the poor road network and bad weather actually impacted on INEC officials' arrival. But hold that thought. Sarah, we'll talk about it shortly. Ime Emmanuel is standing by, operations manager, ready to lead Africa. Mr. Emmanuel, can you recap? I was asking you about the highlights of what you observed today.
Okay, thank you for having me once again. So, like I earlier stated, right, in some areas, I mean, we had BVAS malfunctions. I was referring to the southeast ward in Esako, West LGA, where at 1 p.m. Voting had not commenced, right? And then we have only 64% of late openings, right? I mean, as at 9:30 a.m., there were polling units that were still not open, right? And there was, I mean, it's beautiful for our democracy to see that despite all of the weather, the logistics, and we had people who came out to vote. But of course, there are challenges that are hitting us, right? Especially with INEC, right? That's why we, as an observer, we observe the process, and of course, we give INEC recommendation. For example, like adequate materials for voters, right? It was properly deployed to a large extent. We can definitely commend INEC for that. And guess what? INEC has stepped up a bit to carry along persons with disabilities. However, not largely, but I mean to certain areas we can see about 30%, less than 30% of polling units had the magnifying glass for persons not able to see properly, right? And the guide and how accessible is this polling units areas to persons with disabilities. And I can tell you that it has stepped up to 84% in this polling units. And observation has been very, very helpful. And we have seen an immense growth, a tremendous growth, because despite the BVAS still giving us issues in certain areas, which caused some voters to call for the bypass, right? And voters trying to intimidate INEC officials, political talks, chasing voters, and just trying to cause chaos because the BVAS are, especially in Esan Central LGA, right, in Ward 8, that's Ohomini LGA. And looking at all of this trajectory, it has not really affected the outcome of the election, because I can tell you for a fact that the people of Edo have imputed their thumbprints in their ballot papers, and of course we're looking forward to seeing certain results coming through tonight.
So in those places where delay was experienced, materials didn't come in until 9:30, can you confirm if INEC was able to make up for the time? Did everyone on queue eventually get to vote?
Yeah, so the voting was extended for people that were on the queue. Yeah, because our observers were there till late hours. We saw people voting even as at 4 p.m. because the queue had not ended. And I can tell you that, yes, we observed people still voting despite the close of the polling unit. But the law says that the last person on the queue must vote before the total closure. Of course, they were carried along.
What's your assessment of performance of security operatives in areas of electoral violence and incidences of vote buying?
Trying to this is something that we have constantly spoke against about, right? Vote buying doesn't help our democracy. Of course, we saw party agents coming to intimidate voters or trying to bribe voters for 10,000 naira to sell their vote, right? And of course, they were reported, and kudos to the security agencies for tackling that issue, right? I can give you specifically in Iguben LGA, right? Idumoko Primary School polling unit. We saw that incident happen, and of course, the security agency stepped in to take care of that.
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, hold that thought for a minute. let me get back to my colleague, Sarah, who is at the Collation Center in Benin City. Sarah, you were just going to talk about your concerns about bad road network and how you think it impacted on INEC's efficiency today.
So there were like a lot of things, right, that I feel that INEC still needs to cross the T's and dot the I's again. So apart from the bad road network, which is, well, not their fault actually, apart from the road network, logistics issue, right? As of last night, when these materials, election materials, should have been, dispatched to the various wards, right? Most of the INEC ad hoc staff didn't have cars to go in. They didn't have vehicles that will transport them from the super rack to the wards. And you find that a lot of them were carrying their bags around the street, waiting. Even after the election today, Nifemi, people, at some point, residents were the ones getting motorbikes. They were getting motorcycles for the INEC ad hoc staff to get back to the racks. And that, I feel, is a bit disappointing. Particularly, it also opens room for any thug that would want to snatch ballot boxes, because these ballot boxes were just out there in the open, right? Because there were no transport, there was no transport, there were no vehicles that could transport the INEC ad hoc staff back to their wards and back to the rack centers, to the racks. And so that, I feel, INEC should work on more, apart from the delayed materials that got to the polling units. Logistics issue was a major one, and some persons were attributed to fuel scarcity, they were attributed to various things, but logistics today wasn't it at all, particularly for the INEC ad hoc staff. I was just pitying and feeling a lot of pity for the core members who were drafted into work for this election. I was pitying all of them, right, because they were not left in a very good condition. And I think for the people, just like Yaga Africa said, would they have passed the resilience test? From my point of view, they passed the resilience test because they were there to help the INEC ad hoc staff. They were also there to ensure that the votes were transmitted from one polling unit to the racks.
Spoke with the resident electoral commissioner on election eve, who was quite confident about their logistics plans. INEC had mentioned that they even had to raise the budget because of the hiking cost of transportation and the price of fuel. He was of the opinion that everything had been planned out and there was not going to be a challenge. But that didn't turn out exactly how he envisaged. But in the overalls, Sarah, do you think that this in any way affected the number of people who actually voted in the concerned areas?
I don't think it did, because even before the INEC ad hoc staff, right, people were at the various polling units waiting. And then when they heard that INEC ad hoc staff were at the polling units, they came out like in their numbers, the old, persons with disability. They came out in their numbers to vote. They came out in their numbers to also observe. And can I say that also that for the security operatives, at some point when it was a bit chaotic because people just wanted to get accredited and vote at the same time, they were not abiding by the rule, which is to stay on a queue. The security operatives came in to ensure that people went back to the queue, right? So, and there was no force, there was no chaos at the end of the day. It was smoothly done. And even the Nigerian army stayed away from the polling units, just observing how people went about, the electoral process. And so in all of this, right, so I would say that for the people, it didn't stop them, because I feel like at this point in time, they wanted to make a change. They wanted their voices to be heard. They wanted to see what would happen if they come out in their numbers, which is from the awareness, from the sensitization from civil society organizations, that if you don't come out, your numbers won't translate to your decision, to your voice being heard. So people wanted their voices to be heard, and that's what we saw today at the polling units. Whether there was voter apathy or not, at the end of tonight or at the end of the final collation of results, we won't know if there was voter apathy, because I told you yesterday that some persons that said they would not come out to vote, but out of, let's say, 5 people, right, 3 people had promised that they will come out to vote. So I think that's a good number.
Well, yes, I agree with you. We have to wait for the numbers and an accurate data to be able to measure how we are fed this year compared to the last 4 years. Briefly, Mr. Emmanuel, what do you think is the gap for the umpire here when you compare that preparation with what you saw on the ground? I understand it's no longer there. Sarah, what's happening there beyond, cameramen setting their equipment? What else can you see at the collation center?
So what I can see right now is just journalists waiting for this to happen. Journalists, of course, people that are watching from home, expecting us to give them feedback, tell them what's happening at the collation center. So that's what's happening now. And I also know that what's happening now is at the various racks, collation of results is happening from the ward level to the racks and then to the local government level. So we're expecting all of that activity at the wards. Here at the headquarters of INEC, that's here in Benin City at the collation center, not a lot is happening. Of course, security outside is top-notch. Like if you don't have the accreditation card or any proper identification, you won't be allowed into the street where the INEC office is situated. And so security outside, it's top-notch. You have the Nigerian army first off, you can't get past them. So you have the police later on. And then here in the hall, it's just journalists waiting, election observers, just a few. I've seen 1 or 2 party agents coming just to check what's going on or keep space because this is a really small hall. It won't occupy or take the number of persons that will be coming here when results start to come into Benin City.
Sarah, grab a cup of coffee or whatever you do. Looks like it's going to be a long night for everyone. We'll be back with you for more updates shortly. Thank you, Sarah, for the great work. Well, let's get back to the politics of things, Mr. Shoma. In Edo Central itself, because that's where 2 of the 3 main candidates are from, I hear that the APC candidate, for instance, is a member of the Senate, and that there is the politics of things as to, well, we will need to replace him if he wins this election. Yeah. How did that work either for or against Asa Ighodalo?
First and foremost, this election, there's a clear divide between the elites and the traditional politicians. For the elites, they feel, we want to have a governor we can relate with, a governor who can relate with the outside world, who can communicate. The APC candidate does not have that gift of communication.
He shied away from everybody.
Let's not dance around it. It's obvious. You see him, he takes time to pick his words. So you could say he doesn't have that gift of communication. And for the traditional politician, they will tell you, well, we've had governors who could communicate, but we didn't get it any better.
His party says his job is not a speech making.
Exactly. So for them, look, it's a candidate, they will have to sell him anyway. But the politics of, right from 1999, some people, they are like the traditionals, the Southeast in Edo, where they have stayed true to type with PDP. PDP had been their stronghold. That's where Neni is from. But in 2023, what they've consistently had been, rotational senates. You go do 2 term and come back. Go do 2 term and come back. And then the senator before now, wanted to go for a 3rd term. And then the people said, no, you should move from your area now to another area. I think.
And that was a PDP member?
Yes, a PDP member. That's why I said they have always been in PDP. So, but I also think, including this candidate, also was in PDP. So, look, let me tell you, all of them, apart from Oshiomhole and maybe Akpata, yes, Akpata, every other person in this race, we are all in PDP at some point. From 1999 to 2003, of Philip Shaibu, all these people were members of the State House of Assembly, all PDP. So it is one family, they just share themselves.
Well, I thought Philip Shaibu had always been with AC.
No, Philip Shaibu was a PDP member in the House. Oh, it was when Oshiomhole came that all of them moved into ACN and then APC. So, and this Okwewolo moved from PDP to APC, got the APC ticket, and he was able to relate both with the PDP people and the APC, and he got sympathy vote, and he got into Senate. And now, the people are stuck between 2 candidates. One, the grassroots man that they know, who is a current serving senator, And then their Western boy son who can relate with the world, but who some people feel, look, we really don't, you know. But then, head or tail, he's from amongst them. So the elite on one side will say, we want this as well. He's, though, you know, Edo State has never had the, you know, the, what do you call it, the privilege of having a handsome man as governor.
Whatever that means.
So, yes, this man, you know, good communication skills, a lawyer, investment banker, and, you know, all of
Even
that.
though the APC will tell you that
Yeah.
he had to use interpreter when he goes home.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So that for the APC, no, this man is not a grassroots.
He's not the homeboy.
He's not a homeboy. He has no investment here. He has no, you know, connection here. So if you look at the traditional Esan politicians would say, this one is one of us. Forget the grammar. He's one of, so he could relate with them, both in APC and PDP. But then there are some persons also who feels, look, we have been in PDP, we have been with the governor, you know, it is time. If we go to APC, we're going to queue. So let us stay true to time. Then you had the Aslam Ujezu and co, who were with the governor also, who felt shortchanged, and, you know, would not forgive Obaseki for anything. Who now also moved and looking in the direction of the party they were in, which is the APC, before they moved to PDP with, what do you call it, Obaseki. And then you now come to the center where you have, you know, all the gladiators, like the melting pot. Yeah, you could say that's where the majority of the voters are, but you have, it's a metropolitan, you know, melting pot. You have the visitors. A lot of people from the southeast also resides there. You have people from, a lot of people from even the Edo Central are all in Benin. And then you have few from Edo North also in Benin. And then the two, what do you call it, major candidates, they have their running mates also from Benin. One from Igbobaoka, the other one from Ovia. And mind you, the APC candidate that defeated the Igbinedions in Ovia. Igbinedions are known, Ovia had been their stronghold. So he's from Ovia and he had defeated them twice. And then the politics of also replacing him in the House of Rep, because if they win, somebody will have to replace him. So you saw Omosede Igbenedio decamping from PDP to AP because she was in the House of Rep also. So also positioning to take that ticket. So if they are able to put their house together and assist them to win, then that means there's a slot opening. If the senator from the central also win, that means there's an opening. So people, you know, will gravitate towards, unlike the PDP and Labour. So these are factors that some persons will look at. And that's what will determine whether they will put their money in the election also. But for the PDP, you have a sitting governor. You can't rule out the influence of a sitting governor who also has the state budget and pocket. You also cannot rule out how Aswe has been able to manage, you know, the campaign, despite Obaseki's baggage. There are people who would say, well, I don't like Obaseki, but I think of the two candidates, they would prefer an Aswe. But they would have preferred an Olumide, but if not the fact that Olumide is from Benin. He's a homeboy in Benin, well known. Yeah. So there are some persons that came from America because of Olumide also, that you can't take away. You know, but like I said, the traditional political structures, a man, let me give you an instance. Let me take this home, the grassroots people can relate with. Yeah. If you're a House of Assembly member, for example, from Edo State, you visit your constituency. The people will come to visit you. You share money. This is how the oil.
Just a minute, Mr. Shoma. What you're seeing on your screen is the INEC portal, and it's interesting to see that the Independent National Electoral Commission has now uploaded as much as 98.3% of the results of this election on that portal. Results we understand from over 4,000 polling units where elections held across the state today have been successfully transmitted on that portal. The total submitted results you can see on your screen is 4,242 out of 4,500 and 19.
19, yes.
So you're saying percentage uploaded 93.87%. That's unprecedented, relative to the previous elections we have covered. Very interesting development. It means, therefore, that if you are very curious about seeing how this election turned out, you can visit that portal and see the pictures, the pictures of the result from all of the polling units. It's just that it's going to be a lot of work for you to do the calculation yourself.
Yeah, it doesn't, the results...
because you have to...
The portal does not collate.
It doesn't tabulate it.
You just view.
You have to do it yourself manually.
Take out the numbers manually.
But this is a good sign that perhaps we're going to have the collations start earlier than we all ever said.
Yeah, but because the portal is a viewing portal, so these are results already collated.
Yes.
So
at the ward level.
At the polling unit
at the polling unit level, yes.
So at the ward level, this result will also be, collated. It will be tabulated. At the rack level, they'll be tabulated, and then results signed at that rack level, what you call the ward level, and take it to the local government level. From the local government level, that's when they now begin to return the results to the state collation centers. So we'll probably be seeing the first result, depending, maybe from Oredo, because that's the Benin. We'll probably be seeing results from those areas, coming maybe around midnight. And then those people coming from Edo North and Esan, because of the bad roads, that's a very big logistic problem. And that is just one road. That Auchi Lokoja road is terrible. It's a federal government road, though, but terrible state. So people that are going to bring materials from those areas, including those coming from, Uromi, Irua, and all of these places, will probably, if they are not in Benin now, because if they are still collating, then they're going to have problems, getting in. So as maybe you see, tomorrow morning you'll still be receiving results, coming from these places. But like I was saying...
you look at the figures again, real-time viewing on the screen, it has changed to 93.91%. Just a few minutes ago, it was just 93.87%. So we now have more results from 4,244 polling units out of the 4,519. I'm just a little bit curious, Mr. Oshiomhole, if this is the result viewing portal of INEC. I'm wondering if pictures uploaded here are tenable in court as evidence if the figures collated at those centers do not tally.
Yeah, what usually happens, all of the political parties will have their situation rooms where, as the results are coming, they also set up their portals where they'll be collating results as they are coming. And so, the results collated from the polling unit, our experience from the Election Petition Tribunal, the challenge is irregularities are usually proved polling unit by polling unit.
Okay. And
so you look at the polling unit where there are challenges, and those are the polling units you take out. The result is certified true copies of those Form EC 8A now, which are the result sheets. Those are the ones you tender to prove irregularity.
So,
but then the big question is substantiality. If those irregularities are substantial enough to affect the overall outcome. So the result on the portal, because the result on you can't just lift result from the portal, you will also have to go get the hard copies certified from INEC. Those are what you would tender in court. And then the portal now becomes like, what do you call it now? A reference to say, well, we have this result. This is the manual result. But what is shown on the portal is different. But the Supreme Court also had discountenanced all of that by saying the results, the primary evidence is the hard copies. Like in Oshu election matter, that the results on the portal is just for viewing purpose.
Absolutely.
And so if the result on the portal, if there's discrepancies between what is on the portal and the hard copy, you would have to have recourse to the hard copy and not what is on the portal. The portal is it's not a collation portal.
People take a picture of a polling unit and fly with it. I mean, that's just one out of over 4,000. And by the way, this is not the official results. Only INEC reserves the authority to announce the winner of this result after collation has been conducted, and then you will have a tabulation of all of the figures put together across the 17 political parties participating.
I can tell you that as we speak now, each of the political parties, with the percentage of results that have come in, each of the political parties already know the outcome.
But there shouldn't be much, there shouldn't be discrepancy between what is on IREV and what is on the document that you're talking about.
There shouldn't be, because if the results are loaded right from the polling unit,
yes,
and then figures, the essence of having to upload them on IREV is because before now, where they change result is between polling unit and collation center. So because nobody has seen those results, so by the time it's moving from the polling unit to the collation center, figures would automatically change. So INEC now, in their wisdom, said, look, we want the world to see the results so that you can't change them midway.
That's right.
So if you, after uploading them, you still allow room for manipulations and changes, and then the court says, well, it's just a viewing portal. For me, it defeats the essence of the transparency in the process.
The figure has changed now. It's now 94.1%. It means that at all of those, what do you call them? Those monitoring rooms of those political parties.
Yes,
you can tell by now.
Yes, the situation rooms of the political party will sit down. They have calculators. They have those that are they are statisticians who are collecting. As a result, are coming from the portals. They also have their the more serious political parties all have their feed agents. So the feed agent will also send results to their collation centers. So they will tabulate the figures and wait to see if it tallies with INEC figures. But it is, the thing is, if this result are the result as posted from, there's no reason why it shouldn't tally. That was why, if you look at the 2020 governorship election result, it was very easy because the PDP that won that election, I saw some people bandy that same old result as, this result. It was easy. They had a situation room where they already tabulated the figures, and as INEC were releasing the figures, it was just tallying with what they have. So, and I hope that this will also be the same for all the political
What
parties.
happens in court? Because, Edo is having an off-cycle poll because of an election that was won in court.
Yes.
So, if the figures from the certified true copy, from all of the wards and state collation is different from what is on IREV, are you saying that these pictures cannot be used as evidence in court?
What, unlike before now, let me tell you some of the challenges that we face at the election petition tribunals. Unlike before, when you have all the time in the world to call 300 witnesses. Oshiomhole's case lasted for almost about a year plus, and that's why his swearing in, is a year almost after the election. Right. Ngige's own was almost 3 years. So, at the election tribunal then, you had the last 1,000. So that's where the challenge is. So what did politicians do most times? In the areas of strength, they ramp up the numbers. Right from the polling unit, the numbers are ramped up. So that's why they say you only rig election where you are popular. So if this area is your stronghold, you score maybe 1,000 votes, and then your opposition will be scoring 4, 5, 27. But you also try as much as you can in their areas, in your opposition's areas, even when they defeat you, you try to ensure that you close the gap.
But how do you ramp up the numbers with the use of BVAS? The idea of the bimodal verification accreditation system.
That's what I was trying to explain
is to ensure that if you don't have a PVC,
that's what I was trying to explain to
count.
You. When politicians tell you they are oiling political machineries, if you're a member of the State House of Assembly, for example, they'll tell you you must win your area. So why do you think they go home? You don't see them in constituency office. When they go home, they bring goods to share. You see their compound. I've been in a politician's house. I don't want to mention them. In the Edo State. Christmas, on the eve of Christmas, everybody was, in fact, the entire community came to visit. And so he was the one doing the sharing by himself. So he sat at the gate, and they'll give you, you go out. They give you, you go out.
What was he sharing?
Was sharing money and small rice. So these people, they see him as their Lord and Savior. This is our leader. So when there is election, this man that has been coming to share,
they show up for him.
They show up for him. And that's why your reporter was saying, look, they came out to support
their own.
So this is our own. That's why when you see politicians, when they build houses, they have a large courtyard where they sit down and attend to, followers. People come, oh, my son want to write WAEC. It's okay, take this. My child is looking for a job, so put his name down. When we get to Abuja, we'll see what we can do. So to the people, they are dispensing favor, not knowing that ordinarily these things are yours. So that's how they wrap up number. They are more interested in the polling units than the welfare of the people. So that's why they will over-issue. So election time like this, they go around, they share money to leaders to also ensure this vote buying that we are talking about is a way of wrapping up the numbers. Vote for my party and show me the ballots. Show me, and then you go there and collect money. The kind of money that you can use to cook soup in this kind of hard time. So this is what they do. And then you expect that average woman who has not seen 5,000 naira will not collect. It will say, well, anyway, I like this candidate, but there are people who were not giving money on the day of election. So, but they gave us something for this one. And that's why for election year is about money, and that's how they collect numbers.
We like to blame
in places where you have the educated, discerning,
yes,
where they all come out, they can sit down, afford their own drinks, vote, and throw banters. You will always see that those places, the candidate that will carry the day will be those candidates that can communicate, But at the end of the day, the majority of the people that are taking decisions do not care about whether you sit down under your tree and have coffee or drinks. All they're interested in what's in it for me today.
Absolutely.
So these are the ways they collect numbers. In some cases also, in areas where they know they are not popular, they go by PVCs. They ramp up the PVCs.
So
you disenfranchise people to collect, to vote. So you that is waiting for your people to come out on that day, they don't even have PVCs to vote.
They already bought
They bought the PVCs, they mopped them up, and they kept them at home.
We blame the political class for taking advantage of poverty and do all these things you've talked about. But you consider a politician who doesn't do all these things, he eventually becomes unpopular even amongst his own people.
Listen, last week Saturday, I took time. I was with Senator Shehu Sani. Took time to listen to him for. And then I learned a lot of things also about the mindset of the average traditional politician. That is why, if you want to play politics in Nigeria, you don't know how to do these things. Peter Obi went far and said, we know they give shishi. But a lot of people were giving shishi on his behalf to ensure that, they're able to show up. People raised money, donated money to ensure that shishi will be given.
So the shishi thing is a function of the society.
It's a function of the society.
And then we can't completely blame it on the politicians. Is that what you're saying?
You know where the blame is? Because the politicians are the leaders. They are to eradicate poverty. Let me give you an instance. I told somebody, I said, Europe, America, and the world, they've conquered poverty. How? You want to drive a Lamborghini if you have a job that can at least pay a mortgage for it, a deposit for it, the banks will give you. And you want to go on vacation, take credit card, and then you can be paying over 30 years. So you don't have the need to want to primitively acquire wealth so that your children can go to school, so that you can go on vacation just like the rich man. The rich man is going to buy designers. You also can use credit to buy. So at the end of the day, he can influence you. But here, those things are not available. So you hear the do you know who I am mentality. You want to be like that man. And the only way you can be like him is to, amass wealth also like him and keep. Because a lot of them now steal what they don't want. And then on election day, they begin to give you peanut. And that's why we blame them. But over time, we see ourselves doing like them. Those in government today were once critics of previous governments. And what they criticized, they get there, they find out that
they do the exact same thing.
Yes, it's a societal thing. If you don't do it, there are people who are waiting to take your seat. Imagine going to the National Assembly and you say, this is what we earn. And then your colleague says, oh no, it is a taboo for you to do that. Instead of your constituency, right? Instead of them to praise you, There are people who are saying you went there to do activism. He's not representing us. He should come back because he wants to go. You know, he wants to go and maintain conspiracy of silence. And that's why no matter the campaigns, no matter the noise, when they get there, they do almost the same thing. People go into politics in Nigeria because they don't believe in service. It is about, let me go and also make something for myself. And that's why you award a contract, you're asking what is in it for me. And then on election day, the people also ask you, what is in it for us? So the cycle continues like that. And with every election year, we expect things to be better. After the election, we complain that, oh, look, we didn't expect it this way. But all that said, it still boils down to all of us. The day we say, you know what, irrespective of the inducement, irrespective of what is happening, let us be involved in the local government election to start with.
We have completely run out of time.
Yes, I know.
We have to go now. We have our eyes on Edo State. Our reporters are live at the Collation Center in Benin City. And we'll be right back at 10 p.m. to continue our live coverage of the Edo election. Stay with us, everyone. I am Nifemi Oguntoye. Libros Oshoma, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
It's okay here. I don't know others. But what I'm seeing here is like a testimony that INEC is getting it right.